What did I just do there? Shooting. Pew, 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 pew. The last thing you saw us do was the Mbrp Exhaust, but since then we've moved on to a few things we didn't do on camera, and I'll give you a quick look. All right, so one of the things we did was we redid the front bumper because we didn't like the way it fit. We tried to put the cover on and it just didn't look right. Also, the intercooler was kind of funky in there, so we decided to redo that, and it will get a little bit more intense, but we'll get back to that later. We also had our friend Mike Cox come in and do a bit of plumbing for us. So he did the fuel lines. We have the new Aeromotive fuel lines that run all the way back to the Aeromotive lift pump, and that system is basically done now. And we have a new drive shaft, and the drive shaft is pretty important to us because it has to hold all the torque that we plan on putting to the ground. Mike Cox also did these beautiful brake lines. So he did a really good job with that. That runs all the way to our Stoptech brakes. And we had to make a custom bracket, which was very important for the location and how this performs. I'm pretty pumped at the way that turned out. And it's time now that we can set this thing on the ground and kind of take a look at what we got today. Now that the car's down, I'll show you a few more things that we did. Starting off with the steering. The steering was one of the hardest things that we've done on this. Everything was pretty much custom made. Turnkey really helped us out by sending us this manual steering rack, and that saved a lot of space for us and helped us package the entire steering. The firewall was kind of a hard task, and then we had to make a pedal box, which the pedals aren't on right now, but it's very strong. There won't be any flex in the firewall when we're hitting the brakes, and it's a very good location for our steering wheel. So feeling comfortable in a car like this is one of the major things for me, and I think we nailed that. So moving on, we can take a better look at the brake system that Mike did. Looks really good. And then the fuel lines running up front here. So now the Aeromotive lines are complete. We can move on. Here are the new Rotiform wheels that we just got. Yuri absolutely killed it. The design is amazing. These are one of one. They're all the same size. They're 20 by 10.5, but they are different offsets. So these are the rears. You can see that they have a little bit more of a lip to it. And these are a little bit more flat face for the front. I'm super pumped to put these on, but you can also see peeking in the background here, we got some really nice body panels to throw on. So after we put the wheels on, we'll start to mock this up. This is the Anderson composite carbon fiber fenders, hood. We got a few more goodies, but we're gonna get the wheels on, put it on the ground, and then take a closer look at what we have to do. Cool without a fender. Well, I'm pretty pumped to see the car on the ground and have the wheels on it for the first time. It makes it look more complete, more like a car. There's something I'm not pumped about. We had talks of how to do aerodynamics, so we had our buddy Betim come in, and Betim came in a few days ago and pointed out some things that we need to change. This intercooler setup I was never really in love with. We kind of went too big on the intakes, which is going to be pretty terrible for boost anyway. And then we don't have too much surface area for the core. So we're gonna talk about changing the core setup and have something a little bit bigger. Betim was worried that we wouldn't get enough cooling through there. And then also with the radiator, there's really nowhere to vent this or duct it out, and we wanna come out through the hood. As you saw that cool Anderson hood we have, we're gonna have to make a duct that will bring the air out of it. So everything is going to be leaned forward. We found out that we got a lot more real estate if we just cut some of this out. So we're gonna have to cut this out here. We're gonna make a new intercooler, and then we're gonna make a really nice shroud for all this to lean forward. So the idea of leaning this forward, then the air will come up and be able to exit out here, giving us a little bit downforce and a lot more cooling. So that's the other reason we didn't really carry on with the bumper up front, because we are changing a bit, but a little setback, You screw up sometimes, but we're just gonna rifle through and the car will be better then. So thanks Betim for nipping this one in the bud. I follow that with the Sawzall then. Well, at least this will give us an idea of like, this is the end of the bumper, absolutely.
Yeah, that's as far as we can take it.
How far forward we can go, or the intercooler, you know. Well, the reason we're doing this is because we want better airflow. So the bumper has a big opening right here, and we're gonna take advantage of that for the air coming in, and we want the air to move smoothly through both coolers, whereas before we had them coming straight in, which would kind of create some weird turbulences. If we have it angled like this, and we have good ducting, it's gonna come in like that and start to go ramp up and out the hood. And when it does that, it's basically gonna push the front of the car down and give us a little bit more downforce. So we'll get more cooling, more downforce, and that's the whole idea behind this. Planning is difficult, but it's gonna make it easier to work on in the long run. So let's just see a maximum lean. I'll hold it, I got this. Like I can't really lean it further than that because I'm hitting the oil here. We're gonna need that clearance anyway, so it's gonna sit about here. Now, the only thing to consider is where the hood comes down.
Well, that and then
this could.
And then we also need the end tanks are gonna be tight.
If we do this right, we can almost have the same orientation of the intercooler piping where it was.
Yeah. We're gonna have to put the bumper.
Yeah.
Because the bumper has that angle
right here.
And it angles down, you know what I mean? That other piece comes out like down here.
Yeah, and then the radiator's got maybe a little gap there to take some of the extra. But the fan will be centered to both.
The bumper will be good to use, I think, for a bracket, like to keep it like
this way?
Like this, yeah. Something like that. Maybe down here or something, but
use a detachable one?
Yeah.
It's gonna look way cooler.
Yeah, for sure.
So as I mentioned, I had Betim drop by about a week or so ago, and I wanted to discuss what was going on with some of the aerodynamics and the cooling. And if you don't know Betim, here's the reason you should know Betim. But he came in to help us out, and he pointed, immediately you saw something that you were like, okay, that's not gonna cool.
Yeah, well, the first thing that we saw was, well, when I walked up, I just said we need more intercooler there. Yeah. And I saw that we didn't have much real estate with the stock, core support and all that sitting in there in order to get the air to move through and over the top of the car rather than through and stack up in the wheel wells or in the engine compartment. It could come out of here, but this is a high pressure zone, so that's, you're gonna get air stacking back here, so we're gonna block all that off too. The big thing was, instead of the air going natural place for it to go the way it was before, is under the car, yeah. And you don't want that, even though you have this.
Cause a little lift. So there's a few things that we were worried about, and that's why I wanted him in here to tell us that we were doing it wrong. Otherwise, we would have just forced ourselves to keep going the wrong direction. It was good that we caught it when we did, and that's why we need you.
Awesome.
All right, well, let's chop stuff off, reorganize. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's try to make it one.
Okay.
Whether we tack it or weld or build a small bracket or something, and then or tape it, whatever, and then that way we can hold it in place, and then we can get some brackets kind of dialed in and just temporarily hold it together.
Yeah. We did stuff.
We did things.
It's actually sitting in there. So we've leaned it forward quite a bit. We have an idea of how we wanted the coolers attached, how they're going to be mounted. Now we're going to look for the end tanks, stuff like that. What space do we have to play with? Where can we get away with some stuff? Even shrouds or
Yeah, and just start looking at, what the ducting is going to look like, what we need to trim out of the way, and then potentially more supports because this pig's heavy.
yeah, super heavy. And then we got other stuff to think about here later, but looking good so far. That's what I was gonna say.
That's actually looking pretty rad,
It looks cool.
doesn't it?
Yeah, this would be cool to make a support off of and stuff as well.
I think next step, start templating end tanks.
Yeah.
So we've got 16 and an 1/8. 16 and an 1/8. How thick at the bottom would we want it? At least 2 inches thick, right?
Something like that. It's got to get a little bit of air in there. That's good. That's about what we're going to run.
I would say that might not fit. So we need to go up higher with the deal, right?
Yep.
So it needs to be like this, 1 inch higher. Yeah, that's gonna do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This should give me enough to at least try to see if we can get something like going, right? If not, you gotta do it out sheet metal.
No problem. Tim came in the other day, pointed out a bunch of errors that we had made, and then how to make it a little bit better.
I wouldn't say they're errors, it's just, we could tweak it a little, right?
Little tweaks.
Yeah, little tweaks.
Little tweaks. So we'll take these tweaks, and one of them was our intercoolers. So the end tanks for us would have been made out of sheet metal. We decided that was going to be very difficult. These guys can do everything in-house here and can machine us some new stuff. So Dimitri's working on some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, he's, when I brought that paper template back, we were looking at it and he drew it up real quick. I literally came downstairs, walked back up. He goes, look, it's done. Let's go order the metal.
So from what we drew on paper the other day, now he's already basically drawn everything up.
Yeah.
And going through the process of getting ready to
Yeah,
machine.
now he's turning the drawing into what we call programming, which takes the drawing and converts it into a language the machine understands. And then now we'll set it up in there. We'll zero it out. Hopefully start making chips.
Let's go see what Dimitri's doing.
Cool.
All right.
Betim measured up some stuff in cardboard and he brought it back, and I kind of just converted what he drew into something that's a kind of a usable model.
Wow. From our very exact paper measurements.
There you go, reverse engineering at its finest. It looks the same, right?
That's what Betim and I came up with, and then that's what Dimitri came up with.
So yeah, I mean, this is a great way to do it. Start with paper templates, just cut around what you need and then convert it to a 3D model.
So from the 3D model, then what are we going to do next?
So you take the model, then you kind of pick out your stock size that you're machining from, and then we go to make it. So I've already programmed some stuff in here. Starts off on the inside, faces it, and then it continues on. And then the second op is the cool part where we get to see more things happening.
Whoa.
But you just program it, throw it in the machine, run the code, and hopefully it doesn't crash.
The reason you have to do this is because the machine is fairly old, right?
Well, it's like any CNC machine. It's only as good as what you tell it to do. And so as the software gets better and better, it's smarter about how to cut things, but you still have to tell it, like, okay, well, this is what you're starting with, and this is the geometry you're trying to cut around, and then you have to go through different stages of maybe roughing it out and then going finer and finer to reveal the shape. So this is the kind of the rough.
Get out of here, Betim. Science time.
It roughs it out with a big cutter. You use a 3/4 inch cutter, and you see the layers as it starts to reveal them.
That's super cool.
See how you see the lines?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not trying to get like a tiny little cutter to get in all the little nooks and crannies, but
Yeah.
it'll be roughly like that.
Super cool. It's much better than what we were going to come up with, Jose. All right, leave you to it for a minute. All right, we're in Dimitri's laboratory, and we got chunks of metal.
We do.
So this is basically what we're starting with. Out of curiosity, I weighed it, and it was 23 pounds. So this will be our end tank. That's what it starts as, and then...
Well, you can go ahead and put it in.
Okay.
Yep, and snug up the vise, and then just
How
crank on
snug?
that. Your whole body weight. That's it?
I could probably crank harder.
No, that's fine.
All right.
It'll hold.
So you preload it because you got multiple tools for cutting,
Yeah, you
right?
try to preload the tools, set them so that, again, the machine knows where the tool is relative to everything, and then match the program, make sure tool 1 is tool 1, and should be good to go.
Awesome. I just like watching this part. This is my favorite part to watch. It's so cool. So this is visual for you.
Yeah, I mean, see how it lights
so
up?
Lights, yeah.
There's a battery inside, and then when it closes a circuit between this tip and the body, then it lights up. So I'm going to do the center of a block, so I'll do this side and the other two sides, and then do some math to figure out the center.
This looks so crazy. Look at, can you see that? Dude, that looks like something out of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, right?
Reeling in. Yep. That's cool. All right, now we wait. That's a fine bit there. So this is the last pass, basically, with the small bit.
Yes, it's going to be
It's going to take a long time.
It's just the step over is really fine. It'll get a little more exciting as it gets further along. But. And cut to time lapse.
It's done.
It's done.
It looks amazing. I just want to touch it. Wow, that is much lighter than when we started. So the original block was 23 pounds. This is 1.7. Doesn't even feel like that though. Feels like nothing. Thank you so much, Dimitri. Now we have this done. We're just gonna take this back to the shop, weld it up, continue on at the front end, and you're gonna see some progress. Tell you what, this rag made this worse. I made it dirtier.